know.
Dr. Taylor.
Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Bryn Swatson,
Present.
Ms. Carbonell,
Present.
Ms. McKenzie,
Here.
Mrs. Manisi,
Here.
Mr. O'Shea, Mrs. Regis Darby,
Here.
Ms. Santana, Mrs. Scott Heeden,
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Mrs. Manisi, would you please lead us in a flag salute?
Sure. Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Kuhn, would you please read the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Good evening. The New Jersey Public Meeting Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of the Act, the Union Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof published in the Star Ledger and Union County local sources, posted at the Administrative Building at 2369 Morris Avenue, Union, New Jersey, filed with the Township Clerk, and mailed to all persons, if any, who had requested said notice. During the course of the board meeting, the Board of Education offers members of the public an opportunity to address issues regarding the Union Township Public Schools. The board reminds those individuals to address themselves by name and address. The first public comment period is on items on the agenda. The second public comment period can be on any issues. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes respectfully. Issues raised by the public may or may not be responded to by the board. All comments will be considered, and response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate. The board asks all members of the public to be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking, and comments regarding students and employees of the board will not be responded to by the board. Madam President.
Thank you. Mrs. Manisi, would you please read the mission statement?
The Township of Union Public Schools mission statement. The mission of the Township of Union Public Schools is to build on the foundations of honesty, excellence, integrity, strong family, and community partnerships. We promote a supportive learning environment where every student is challenged, inspired, empowered, and respected as diverse learners. Through cultivation of students' intellectual curiosity, skills, and knowledge, our students can achieve academically and socially and contribute as responsible and productive citizens of our global community.
Thank you. The board will go into executive session to discuss personnel and legal matters, and action will be taken upon return. May I have a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Bryn Swatson,
Yes.
Ms. Carbonell,
Yes.
Mrs. Manisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Regis Darby, Mrs. Scott Heeden,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams,
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie.
Yes.
We're using the room to the left.
Maybe some peeps out of that.
That was cold. It was hot in here. That was cold.
Good evening, everyone. We will now resume the public portion of the meeting. Are there any comments from the public on the resolutions tonight? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the following minutes? February 16th, 2023, Ethics HIB Training, February 16th, 2023, Work Session, February 16th, 2023, Executive Session, February 21st, 2023, Regular Meeting, February 21st, 2023, Executive Session.
So moved. Oh,
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Prince Watson?
Yes.
Ms. Carbonell?
Yes.
Mrs. Panisi?
yes.
Mrs. Regis Darby?
Yes.
Ms. Santana?
Yes.
Mrs. Farhi?
Yes.
Mrs. Gilliam?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes. The communications that you see on the board agenda will be addressed in the fiscal and personnel agenda. And now we will have our superintendent's report. Dr. Taylor?
Hi, Ms. Pugh. Thank you, Madam President. We have quite a lot going on tonight under my presentation heading. First thing I'd like to do is introduce our high school principal, Ms. Bozzard. As the board is aware, every month we honor special students and faculty, and so that's why we have a throng of people on the left, my left side of the library. So Ms. Bozzard has something to hand out as well. Why don't you come up, hand out your material, grab the mic, and let's honor some folks who are here.
Just just pass it down, and then that way you can. Okay. Yeah, I'll just pass it down. Here we go.
You can pull the mic out at the stand, Ms. Bozzard.
Is it on? Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm Miss Bossard, Althea Bossard, high school principal. Nice to be here. I was asked to honor a teacher and a student, and my response was, I have almost 300 faculty. I'm supposed to pick one person, so I could not do that. I sat with Miss Fisk, and we came up with a list of names of teachers that deserve to be honored tonight. First, we're going to start with our student. This is Jason Navoa. Jason, can you stand, please? And I did ask a teacher who was at the high school and would be on this list, but she left us to go to Burnett. So, but I did ask her to write about Jason, and I'll read to you now what she says. Jason Navoa is the embodiment of a union farmer. This year, he was an integral part of the Farmer Fam Spirit Squad, leading the student section during football games to embrace their farmer pride and cheer their team on no matter what. In addition to being Spirit Squad leader, Jason participated in several community building projects through You Matter. He volunteered at haunted halls where he helped organize and joined the varsity soccer team's zombie room. I remember that. He also contributed to You Matter's Season of Giving by donating to and sorting out items for the Harvest Food Drive and Giving Tree projects. Jason was always willing to go above and beyond for his school community. His impact on the Union farmer community will be long-lasting and greatly appreciated. Thank you, Jason. Mom and Dad, and Dad, and Dad. So I'm not going to read every single thing about each of the teachers and staff that we have on the sheet today, but I did think it was important for you to have a copy of it because you don't get to necessarily, as board members, see what the other teachers and staff are really doing for our students in the building. So it's for you to hold on to so you can put a face to a name, and if you come to visit the building, you can say, oh, remember her, she does X, Y, and Z, or even if you needed to reach out to someone for anything. So first we'll start with Miss Hall. As you all know, she is our student assistance counselor. Sure. Miss Hall, she's everywhere, participating, helping. She kind of sneaks up on you sometimes, but she is a huge asset to our high school community. She meets with our students. She does a mentorship program. She's available when the parents need her. When I need her, she's available. She is a wealth of information for a lot of different things. And I don't think that we would be able to do and get done the things, as much as we could without her help. And she also lets us know when we're wrong as well, which we also need, and what we need to do better, which we also need. So I just want to say thank you for all that you do for our staff and our students, and you are truly appreciated. Thank you. Yes, next we have Ingrid Suarez. I had the pleasure of meeting Ingrid when I became the interim principal at Battle Hill for my first year, and then she left me to come to the high school. But now I get the chance to work with her again. Ingrid works with our female empowerment group at the high school and does a lot of activities. She works along with Mr. Mays, who runs the male empowerment group, and that's very important for our female students to have someone in the building that they can rely on and count on, and who sets a really great example for our girls. So this is Miss Suarez. She's one of our school counselors. Next we have Miss Michelle Menders. She is one of our senior class advisors. She volunteers for the Farmer Fam and Student Council. She helps with the fashion show, and she's also currently helping with Mr. UHS and the senior day that we have planned. So thank you. And she's a math teacher. We need math teachers. Yes. Thank you. Tara Scaramuzzi is one of our special education teachers at the high school. She has previously been senior advisor for the past 4 years. She helps with all the senior activities, fashion show, Mr. UHS senior day, prom, graduation. This year she's a member of the INRS committee, and she's on that committee to help come up with plans for our struggling students, which we also need. So Tara, thank you so much. I'm moving quickly, right? I'm going fast? Okay. Mr. Daly. Mr. Daly is another one of our math teachers at the high school. He also works with, he's on the chair for National Honor Society, and he is also taken over the Tomorrow's Teachers program, where he helps our students in that class who want to be educators in the future. So he is a huge part of that. And he is also at everything, helping out as well, at literally everything. And Shannon, I don't have you on the list, right? Okay, come up. Yeah. You might as well come up with him because you'll be standing together soon. They're getting married. Sorry. So Shannon wasn't on the list, but she is also also a part of the group as well, who is at everything helping. She was at the dance we had, helping out with the coats in the coat room. Yeah, which was, yeah, a lot. So thank you. Thank you. And she's the softball coach as well, yes. So she's also working with our students. So thank you. Yeah. Jada Nyarko. So Jada was a student at the high school when I was a vice principal, and now she's a staff member, and she's one of our English teachers. So Jada is also an alum. She's giving back to her community, as I stated, and as well as being one of the senior advisors. She helps out with prom and all those different things. I had to go. I'm sure you all are aware of the prom proposal failure that happened last week. I did have to go to her and say, listen, you better tell these kids. No, but she's also a huge part of the high school community, helping with homecoming, the fashion show, planning Mr. UHS, anything you could think of, the activities that are going on. She's one of the teachers that's also a part of it and present for everything. Yes. Miss Kaplan, Megan Kaplan. She is also a English teacher at the high school. She another senior class advisor, helps out with the fashion show, Mr. UHS, all the senior activities, pep rally, the haunted hallways, everything you can imagine. She's also helped with that. So please give her a hand. Thank you. Julia Saladino, please come up. So this is Julia Saladino. She's another one of our math teachers. Seems like our math teachers are, yeah. Our math teachers they're amazing. So she's a first year, this is your first year. She's one of our first year teachers, yes. And she's immersed herself in our school community. She volunteers to help out with the Farmer Fam, student council. She's at all the football games. She volunteers at all the senior class activities with the advisors. And, you know, one of the things we say a lot, our teachers give back. They don't get paid to do all of this. It's a lot of work. It really is. They spend countless hours with our kids, planning events. I see them in Miss Kaplan's classroom at the end of the day. They order Starbucks and don't ask me what I would like. It's a joke. It's a joke we have. So thank you. Thank you, Miss Saladino. Thank you. And last but not least, Miss Menjivar. She's on the back. You can see the whole list of things. She's one of our Spanish teachers. Miss Menjivar has also been essential. They all work really well together. Everything. Student council advisor throughout the years. She plans dances, events, Mr. UHS, Miss UHS, everything that involves the school for student council, any event that happens at the school, she is a part of it. We'll sit together, she'll come up with ideas. We came up with an idea to try to bring the school community together, and we had a door decorating contest with the staff, and surprisingly, the staff, everyone was all in. It was great. They won prizes. She provided the teacher who won with a prize for her class. It was, Miss Navoa said it was fixed because she didn't win. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you do. Thank you, thank you. Yes, come on up for a picture.
Squeeze in here. Is that okay if we do that? Kristen, can you get a wide shot? All right, let's get in front here, guys. Center, right here, center right here.
Us vertical challenge.
Come on. Come on over here. It's a balance over here. There you go. There we go. How many degrees do we have here that we can't figure? How many degrees? Yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Those of you who are honored tonight, feel free to be honored to leave. Either that or you can listen to a budget presentation. If you have a guest here, come out to you. Thank you for being here. I'm going to continue my presentation to now shift into budget mode. Ms. Kuhn, the business administrator, and I are going to, for the third time, present the budget we are recommending the board approve tonight for the next fiscal year. On the screen is the timeline that we followed beginning in December. Actually, the process started in November. I didn't indicate that here. But we started collecting data on the budget in November. And it culminates in tonight's hopeful approval of the budget by the Board of Education. So, Ms. Kuhn, do you want to say a few words about the following slides?
Okay, as Dr. Taylor stated, we have presented this 2 or 3 times to the Finance Committee and a couple of times in March. And I'm not going to read line item by line item, but this is a snapshot of all of our expenses sorted into categories. The first column obviously represented the initial submission from all our departments and school. The second column is what the tentative budget that got approved. And then the latter column is the last year's fiscal budget. And the last column is just the percentage over last year. And as you can see, it's an increase from last year of roughly 10%. Basically, our cost drivers, it's not new to any district. It's your salaries, compensation, benefits. We are seeing a great increase in our special ed students out of placement, as well as our related services, a host of special ed services. To balance the budget, obviously you need your expenses to match your revenues, and that's essentially here, looking at the revenues and expenses. Next. There are basically 4 big buckets of revenue streams that this district has had. As you can see, that first line item, state aid. This year, we were blessed and fortunate to receive a $7.4 million increase in state aid, which represents roughly 19.5%, which was greatly needed. Next, we have our extraordinary aid, which is basically reimbursement for a lot of our related special ed services. We apply every year, and hopefully we can get our reimbursement. The state allows a certain amount of reimbursement. The next is our fund balance, which is quote unquote roughly our savings account. Last year we used 3. This year for fiscal '24 we plan to use $4 million, and then our local taxes. Our local taxes this year we were eligible for a health adjustment, which helped, as well as a enrollment adjustment, along with our 2% cap of increased state tax. Basically, from this sheet, I do want to take away, or want you to keep in mind, going forward with fund balance, which is quote-unquote our savings account, we are depleting our savings. So we definitely have to look at different ways of reducing and thinking out of the box. But our fund balance is depleting. And lastly, the financial impact on our tax levy. This year, our ratables actually, net value community went down slightly. However, though, the school tax rate did increase. So we, this year, are anticipating having an impact of roughly $150.
I would like to supplement what you just heard with some data on grant funds that we've received that have helped offset operational costs both this year and next year. The slide you see before you shows that in large part thanks to our Director of Grants and Funded Programs and District Initiatives, Isabella Scacosa, just in the last 3 months, we've received a little over $2.5 million in federal and state grants that I title here on the slide, most of which will be slated for facilities improvements. I also have to give a shout out, and thank you, Susan Lipstein, President, just if you don't mind waving your hand a little bit, is in the audience, of the Education Foundation for having raised, thank you, for having raised and then funded most recently $10,500 in grants. And I'm showing you a snippet there of just some of the descriptions of the grants that were given out. There were 2 categories of grants, what the foundation referred to as micro grants and macro grants. In my phone message that will go out to the district tomorrow, you'll learn a little bit more about the foundation, the history, and the website is included in my message. So if you want to help out, feel free. The foundation is an entirely volunteer-based organization made up mostly of residents who work hard and monthly meet to talk about grant work. Okay, so now the even more interesting part of my presentation is an update on what's happening around the schools. I do want to give a shout out to all my principals and the faculty in their schools who, for the past month, have been recognizing Autism Awareness Month. I have been amassing all of the events and resources that the schools have been putting out there, and I'm very impressed. It feels like this year has been even more forceful in our recognition and celebration of Autism Awareness Month than the previous year. Just an example of what one school, Burnett, is doing to show how our differences, whether they be according to our race or our ethnicity or our learning needs, are actually what can unite us. So lots going on in that respect. Also, am very proud of the many elementary students who came out for the first annual Elementary Union STEAM Fair, Science, Technology, Engineering, Mathematics, and Art, led by Dr. Perez, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum to my left, and supported by her supervisors and directors, and a few principals that came out, including Mr. Matthews from Washington. This will be a yearly celebration of what our elementary students are doing in the area of STEAM. We've been putting as much emphasis in this district so far on encouraging young women, to be more involved in the STEAM subjects. So I thought that night in particular was a good celebration of that push as well. And we brought out some of our middle and high school students to help role model things that they're doing, so our younger students can see that, wow, if I'm here another 3, 4, 5 years down the road, I can be doing things like racing drones or using something which I saw some of our high school students show off, our 3D printing materials to create race cars and motors and to actually race them in the hall. So that was a great night. Our spring sports are in high gear, and want to emphasize just a couple of really great things happening in particular. Girls softball is having a great season. You're going to see, I believe their record's 8-3. I'm going to show you the record in just a minute. But I also want to point out the really, really altruistic work that they were doing to give back to their community as they helped, along with their peers from around the state, raise $14,000 for suicide awareness, which is such an important matter that we all, as educators and parents and guardians, have to address right now. So that was a biggie. Our track and field team continues to excel. In fact, a portion of our track team is heading to the finals national finals this weekend in Philadelphia. And then we're going to once again represent UHS at the Penn Relays, which is a historic event. Those of you who were runners or field athletes back in the day know the Penn Relays. They're like the pinnacle, at least on the Northeast coast, of competition for that, sport. And then finally, our girls golf team is going strong. They'll actually be in the Union County Conference's first Open right here at Galloping Hill in a couple of weeks. And here's the record. Strong records across the board, particularly for softball. I was right, 8-3. So I think this will be, at least since I've been here, the second plus 500 season at this juncture we've had so far. So we certainly have a very strong program going on there. Now what I'd like to do, though, is talk about what's happening at the district level. Just going to show you one slide. It's my lead-in to introducing somebody who's visited us tonight, Samantha Pugh. This district, in its strategic plan, has placed a focus on fostering greater sensitivity to our diversity, promoting equity and inclusion as well. Right now, a lot of the work we're doing is in the area of professional development. Showing you here a couple of photos that includes a handout on the right side that is something that the principals and superintendents worked with 2 weeks ago. We were talking about privilege, and but not just racial privilege, but privilege in all respects, with regards to how tall we might be or short, our sexual orientation and our identity. So it was a very eye-opening experience for us. Of course, besides the DEI work we're doing, we are continuing our work in the area of helping our principals in particular step up even more so as instructional leaders. We've got Dr. Tracy Severance working with us to look at how we're using data to improve instruction. But it's the DEI work that I want to now shift to and have Samantha Pugh talk a little bit more about. Samantha Pugh. Samantha, why don't you grab that mic while I'm slowly introducing you? Yeah, because you're streaming live to millions of people, and they have to hear through your microphone. So just a word about Samantha before I let her take over. So we actually have, this district has 3 sets of consultants working with us right now to help us with our DEI efforts. Samantha is the third part of that trio who has been in the trenches. Right now, Franklin Elementary, which is our most socioeconomically, racially, and ethnically diverse school of all 10 schools, not just elementary schools. So she's embedded herself. I'm calling her a DEI consultant in residence. Yes. I like that. And so I thought since last time the board met, we met Elizabeth Williams-Riley and Tammy Borman, who've been working with the leadership team. Now it's time for you to meet Samantha Pugh, who's working with our faculty. So Samantha, you want to take over?
I sure can. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I am Samantha, and you might have heard people refer to me as Principal Power. Samantha Principal Power Pugh, a name that I have affectionately gained because you'll probably find out in a few minutes why. I love this picture. Thank you for picking that one. I think it's pretty awesome. But as you guys can see, I'm super excited about the work that I've been doing here with Union since August, right? Since August. And Dr. Taylor is absolutely correct. I am a new family member of Union. And I have taken residence at Franklin, which has been an honor and a privilege to work with the faculty and the leadership team there. Like Dr. Taylor said, I have a PowerPoint, but I don't know that we need to go through all of that. I'll just talk to you guys a little bit about the work that we're doing and the things that we're thinking about on a district level and a school level. So the first question may be like, what is the difference between what she does and everyone else does? I pretty much say that I'm a clinician. So I'm a former principal and chief academic officer. October will be 25 years that I've been in education. I know I don't look, you don't have to say it. 25 years in education, and 14 of which I have been a principal across, at this point, 5 districts in 3 cities. I'm now an educational consultant, and I work with currently 11 schools across the country. I do diversity. My primary work is diversity and equity, and it's also equity and excellence. So I'm super excited to talk to you a little bit about some of the work that we're doing. The difference between what I've been doing and what everyone else is, actually I'm a clinician. I've been a principal, so I know what the schools look like. I know how schools run. So I've been talking a lot about what does policy, practices, and procedures look like. Not personality, but practice and procedures look like that are steeped in equity. I gotta put my glasses on. Hold on a second. So equity in action. Every child, every day. So a lot of people put these fancy words to what equity means, and pretty much what I've narrowed it down to is that it's every child, every day. It's a commitment to making sure that every single child, every single day, gets the opportunity to have access to high quality education, period. And it is our job and our role as educators and community members to make sure that every single student has access to high quality education. The other part of that is that there's no predictability in success based on race, culture, or social factors. There's no predictability. So when you believe those two things, then you're on the road to having the most equitable practices. I am current, like I just said, to give you a little bit about me, I am a graduate of Hampton University. I am also a graduate of Fordham University. I have 2 degrees. I've also have 3 certifications from Harvard University, one in diversity and equity, other one in data, and the other one in educational technology. I am currently, I've currently been accepted to Columbia Teachers College to do my doctoral work there, which will be probably around some of this work. So, and most importantly, I am the first of 56 grandchildren to go to college and graduate.
Wow.
So, I say that all the time just for applause, but no, seriously, it is the framework in which I operate out of, because I stand in front of you as a person who, because someone deeply believed in equitable work, is here talking to you today, because someone gave me the opportunity. So what did I do? So the last few months, my work as a clinician has been around looking at district-wide best practices that are in alignment to the vision around equity. So I spent some time talking with the senior leadership team to get an idea what, how, and what they're defining as equity and what does it mean on a district and community level. The second thing that I focused on was on the ground. I was an on-the-ground resource to the school, and he just told you at Franklin, to the leadership team and the teachers. Shout out to Franklin, my peeps. Support the school in developing common practices and common language when dealing with issues around race, class, and gender. And then I'm also an advisor to the senior leadership team. So what does that mean? That means I've spent a lot of time going around surveying. I spent 2.5 months to get to just about all of the teachers at Franklin, and not just the teachers, but also the support staff. I also spoke to the custodians. I also spoke to the paraprofessionals, the people who worked in the office. I spoke to parents. The only people that I did not speak to was the little people on their necks. And we wanted to, working with the senior leadership team as well as the leader on the ground, we developed some questions that I would ask the team to get to some of the root causes of some of the issues that have been happening at Franklin. And we developed a few questions. And one of the questions were, is there a problem here? Because we might assume that there was a problem, right? Is there a problem here at the school? And if there is a problem, what is it? And is it steeped in race or class? The second question that I asked was, do you think it could be remedied? Why? What do you think the root causes are of the issues, and are you willing to work on them? Now, there were some questions that I asked that will be confidential because it needed to also, because I needed to go deeper. I also wanted to understand who was in the room, so I asked questions around how do you identify? Do you identify as a person of color? Do you identify as someone who is white, or do you identify? And the other interesting question that came up was, are you from Union or not from Union?
That makes a difference.
Because that makes a difference. And you'll see in a second, well, you won't see the slide, but I'll explain it to you, that it does make a difference in how folks answer. I have to say that it was a very, very exciting experience, a very enlightening experience to talk to every single staff member, but it was also a very emotional experience for the staff, for the leadership team, and myself. So some of the questions, some of the things that came out, 87% of teachers of color feel that race is a significant issue at their school. 87%. On the converse, 45% of the teachers interviewed who identified as white felt that race was not an issue at their school. So there's a large disparity between whether or not people of color see race as being an issue, and people who are not of color seeing that race is an issue. 64% of the teachers who are from Union point to race being an issue in the town, therefore it's in the schools. 64%. 78% of all interviewed stated that district-wide policies and procedures deeply impact the issues around race. Some more data that I have is new teachers are the most hopeful for change, and we identified new teachers as 2 years or less. New teachers are the most hopeful for change. Almost all of them that were interviewed stated that they are excited to work in Union and certainly excited to work at Franklin. All participants agreed and strongly agreed that the issues around race deeply impact student learning. Only 10% of those interviewed could define correctly key culturally responsive practices and content areas. All but 2 teachers agreed that they felt that Franklin historically and continuously gets the short end, and I put it in quotes, short end of the stick when it comes to resources and reputation. So what does that mean, Principal Power? That means that there are a lot of great things going on in this district. That means that there's a lot of great things going on at Franklin. But there's still a large gap between the experiences and engagement of people of color and students of color than there are their white counterparts. And I pause for a reason, because I want people to think about what that means, particularly for a school like Franklin, who is mostly African American students and performing at the bottom of all the schools in the entire district. So if people of color don't feel comfortable or supported at the school level, and almost all of them say that race is impacting how kids learn, then there's something that needs to turn around really quickly. Because at this point, 3rd grade at Franklin, the proficiency levels are pretty low. And if those proficiency levels prevail, by the time they get to 8th grade, their access to algebra, their access to high-level ELA, their access to high-level high school offerings will be little or none, which puts them behind in being able to go to college and go into technical and scientific and advanced degrees. which then ultimately cuts their life expectancy. If you're a black and brown child, particularly a boy, and you cannot read by the 3rd grade, which means that you're going to have difficulty being able to read in 8th grade. And if you can't read in 8th grade, your life expectancy cuts down. So the work that we're doing and need to do is life or death for some of our kids. And I encourage that we act with the sense of urgency that it's life or death, because it ultimately is life or death. Some of the things that came up, well, there's a lot of positive. Don't look so sad, y'all. Don't look so sad. It's a lot of positive stuff. But the majority of the staff at Franklin feel that this is something that they could get through with support. And that makes me hopeful, and that's why I show up every Wednesday and drive 2 hours every Wednesday and stay all day, because as long as the staff believes that we can do it, then they have my 100% commitment to work with them. Another thing that came out of my work that has been what I've called in phases. Phase 1 is collecting the data, right? Collecting the data, triangulating the data. Another piece of other thing that I do is I also provide professional development around DEI for the entire district. So I have done 3 at this point professional development opportunities where my focus was to start to take a crack at implicit and explicit bias, privilege, and also coming up with a common definition of what equity means. And as a result, we have had conversations in professional development about developing classrooms that are a lot more inclusive and inviting and affirming of all children, which has been, I thought, very successful. There have been a lot of aha moments in a lot of the rooms. People have emailed and called me. I actually had a group of teachers who from the district who asked me if I could come and speak to some of their family members, which is very, I've said, I don't know how much money y'all have for that, but I might come out. So it's been really, really exciting, and I can see us turning the corner around that. I mean, and the last, and I think the most pivotal thing that we should talk about is one of the main things that is exciting to me is that the commitment and the I would say dedication and support from the senior leadership team, particularly Dr. Taylor and Dr. Perez. They have been on the ground. They have stayed committed. They talk to me. They call me. They're in counsel with me. I work with about 7 districts, and I have not met any other people that have been so in the trenches with this work. So I just want to give you guys a shout out, because you guys have really, really, really got me excited about the work and keep me pushing. There's some things that we should consider moving forward, because it's come up across stakeholders. Stakeholders, parents, and teachers, whether you're from Franklin or not. There are policies and procedures that people feel that exasperate the issues around race and class at their school. Because like I told Dr. Perez and Dr. Taylor, what we did come to a conclusion with a lot of the work that we did, that race isn't the issue, but people feel that race is the issue at the school. The issue is that there is a break and lack of trust. The lack of trust at the higher level, right? And that could be for a myriad of things, right? Doesn't mean that anybody is doing anything wrong, but it is the perception of people, how people feel. And, you know, perception of people becomes people's reality. And the perception is that there are a lot of policies and thought processes. So when we talk about equity, equity doesn't mean equal, right? Equity doesn't mean equal. So if my school is far underperforming than the rest, then the resources that come to my school have to be more. They have to be more, because I have kids that are struggling reading, so they need intervention programs and they need them quickly. The leaders need support. The parents need support. We have kids that are in crisis. And not to mention this, we're all coming out of COVID-19. And the distribution of resources in the district is something that has led to a lot of the teachers feeling like this school will always be the school that will be at the bottom of the barrel. So my recommendation is that we look at some of how the resources are being distributed. So prime example, Kira Baskerville Williams, you guys know Dr. Baskerville, has a school with a lot of kids, and about 76% of her kids are not proficient. About 76% of her kids are not proficient. About 23% of her kids have special needs, and out of those are high-level crisis. She is one principal in the building with no dean and no full-time AP. So what does Dr. Baskerville spend her day doing? What do you guys think? Putting out fires. So she can't get to the instructional leadership because she's putting out fires all day, every day. One day I sat in, because I love data. One day I sat in her office and I counted the amount of minutes. She spent 123 minutes in non-instructional work, not by her choice, but because that's the system that she set up there. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So I had to reorganize how I supported her as well. And actually, you said 50%. It actually should be more. It should be 70% of her time should be in instruction. And it's lopsided. Because I always say, if you're not spending 70% of time in instruction, I bet you 70% of your kids are not proficient. And that's what we have. There's also something that when I interviewed the teachers of color and what I call the neutral teachers, they don't have an opinion either way, is that the transparency around the hiring and the promotion and the reorganization of staffing has been an issue. And the issue has become around how do people get transferred? How do some people not? Who gets the resources? Who gets the promotions and why? What's the criteria? And that was something across the board in every single group of people of color that came up. So we need to take a look at, through, of course, an equity lens, the hiring and the retention practices of people of color in this district. And last but certainly not least, but the most important thing is the instructional practices. What I did is I also evaluated, I used an equity rubric and did what I call an audit of the equitable instructional practices across the board at the school. I went into every single classroom twice, and there's a few things that I looked at. And I'm gonna tell you why I looked at those things first. The number one, number two, and number three reasons why teachers either stay or leave, can you guys guess?
Support.
Okay. The number one, number two reason, one and two drivers of school success are number one, leadership. If you got a good leader, usually you got a good school, period. Two, the quality and delivery of instruction. Number two. Number three is the quality of the curriculum resources that kids have access to. Those are 1, 2, and 3 of the 3 things that drive school success. So that's what I looked at. What is the availability of resources? What type of resources are here? What type of resources are here for kids with needs? What type of resources, what type of curricular resources, if a kid falls behind, what is put in place? If a kid excels, what's put in place? How are teachers supported? What does their professional development look like? Is there an equity statement? Is there purposeful and intentional practices that we have at the school? So using that rubric, I spent another 2 weeks walking through classrooms, and what I found was that we have some work to do. We have some work to do. We have some work to do, particularly with our groups of kids who are struggling the most. Because again, if we talk about equity and we give a one-size-fits-all experience to our kids, then we won't see the movement that we need and as quickly as we need it. The statistics show that they have to get out of elementary school being able to read. If they don't, their life expectancy changes. So my recommendations are to continue. I always think about start, stop, and continue. Continue our commitment. Continue to be steeped in the community and love our community, love on our kids. Continue to support the schools and the school leaders with DEI work and other professional development. Continue to have people at the table talking about this, a diverse group of people. Continue those things because those are great practices that the district has. We have to stop allowing children and teachers to come into buildings where they don't have access, or it takes months for them to get access. One of my favorite movies is called Waiting on Superman. One, because I used to be a charter school principal. You could talk to me offline about that experience. But two, that the answer to the question was, Superman's never gonna come because we all are the superheroes. And there are superheroes certainly at Franklin. There are superheroes in this room. There are superheroes across this district. And we need to give them the opportunity, the access, and the resources to do the superhero work, the Herculean work that it's gonna take to get our kids not just proficient, but excellent. And if we don't start centering ourselves around practices that support kids and families and leaders and teachers, then we're going to be in a very dangerous place. But I'm hopeful that we won't. And I will be sticking with you guys for a little while to continue to dig, to get to those things that we know are best practices for our kids. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pugh.
Any questions? Yes.
First of all, I love your outfit,
Well, thank you, girl. Thank you.
and I don't want to mispronounce your name.
Pugh.
Principal Powell? Pugh?
Power. I know I'm from
Power
Brooklyn.
Pugh.
I have a.
Power Pugh.
Yep.
I am so impressed with your presentation. I think it extends beyond SEL.
Yes.
I think you hit academics in ways that I haven't seen thus far. The fact that you mentioned third grade literacy scores being a determinant of future success, I was just asking Dr. Taylor last week or about a week and a half ago, what is going on with our third grade literacy scores? So it's something that I'm glad that you are addressing. Additionally, you talked about effective schools and some of the criteria that dictates, leadership being number one, but it extends beyond the school
Yes.
to the district level. Instructional quality,
Yes.
curriculum,
Yes.
instructional resources, and sound and quality professional development.
Yes.
Our output is dictated by our input.
Yes.
So thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're very welcome. And I just want to add something to that. It's definitely the quality, but I also think it is having a firm statement, right? Dr. Taylor and I talk about this and I always say, we need a equity statement. If you guys read how to build, if you think about how to build anti-racist schools or organizations, the first thing that they say is that you have to get out there and have a bold statement about what every single school that I know that's done this work for 4 or 5 years, they have, the first thing that they do is put together equity statement, because it sends a message about what we believe and who we are. And it is also a linchpin to holding people accountable to who we are and what we believe. Because if you don't believe that all children deserve access and can, and that all these other factors actually don't matter. The factors, the parents, whether they're here or not, that's like number 7 on the list. But if we don't really get on the same page about what that looks like for our kids and hold people accountable to it, then it's just this thing that happens. Equity becomes this word that just happens instead of the deep practices. So the first thing that I would say is that it has to be a bold statement about what that means for this district and what that means and what we believe as a district. And if you don't believe in it, then this is not the district for you, because we are in that sense of urgency, crisis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wait, there's another comment.
Hi, how are you? So,
Hi, Miss Santana.
how are you?
Good.
I'm trying not to get emotional. So at one point, I was credited with bringing you, your name up here, but I'm gonna say that it was another dynamic woman up here that brought you up here, our Madam President. And I wanna say that at the conversation that we started a long time ago, brought you here, right? And all I wanna say is, it's kind of like, when you see greatness and you just let it go. Our district needs you. Our district thanks you. And it's not just Franklin, it's all of us that needs it across the board. So thank you for everything that you're doing. And we have a lot more work to do.
That's right, but we can.
Amen.
We can.
And I'll be here
That's right, we can.
every single time.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I do want to thank members of the board who referred Samantha to us. So you're sitting here, thank you, because you've been a great fit. I've had a chance to see Ms. Pugh and the kids. The kids have gotten to know her.
Oh, they're my
And
babies.
they're huggers, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Ms. Pugh, thank you.
No, thank you, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome to head out. I know you have a commute. Really appreciate you being here. See you there.
Thank you.
Take care, Samantha. The board will be hearing from the third consultant working with us, Dr. Edward Fergus, likely in May, at the latest June. Dr. Fergus is working on the audit that Ms. Pugh talked about our need to do to consider access to rigorous curricula. I'm going to conclude my report by sharing the latest harassment, intimidation, and bullying data with the board, as I've done for the last few months. You can see a comparison of the data between the period of time this year and last year. So take a look at the slide. Take care, Samantha. And I'm going to show you the other 5 schools in the district. And with that, I am going to conclude my report, Madam President.
Thank you. Next, we will have the Education Student Discipline Committee Chair, Ms. Carbonell, to present the resolutions.
Thank you, Madam President. Before I begin, I just want to give everyone an update. Last week, we had presentations from the administration in terms of the extended day program, where they were able to answer some questions. Obviously, we need more time. There were more questions that prompted those questions. So we look forward to future presentations and dialogue about the extended day program. Additionally, we have been learning about the preschool program, the curriculum, the grant that was awarded to the district, and we look forward to more information in that regard as well. Last but not least, I had the opportunity to go and visit Jefferson. It was many years ago that my son attended, actually. Must be like over 15 probably. And I had not visited the new facility, the new school, and I just want to say amazing job to the community, to the board, to the administration. It was a pleasure to go and visit. And if you permit me 1 minute, I just want to say that you can tell a lot about the school culture of any school when you look at those hallways. From the moment that I went in, I saw a pledge greeting me that everyone signed, the entire staff. There were butterflies representing the spring season. And in the hallways, you could see beautiful student work and positive affirmations. I was able to speak to the students, and I know that I'm going to get this wrong, Miss Piano, but I think it was blue chip tickets or something that kids were able to reimburse for Blue Light. I apologize. Blue Nights. Got it. But it was very nice to see that in addition to discipline also included positive rewards for the students. So kudos to Ms. Piano for her leadership, as well as the staff at Jefferson. Thank you. Thank you. Education Committee. Upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Education Student Discipline Committee presents the following resolutions for the board's consideration. E11, E1A, E2, E3, and E4.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? May I have a roll call?
Yes. Ms. Carbonell? Yes. Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mrs. Regis Darby? Yes. Ms. Santana?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden? Yes. Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes. Next, we will have fiscal and planning. Ms. Manisi and Mr. O'Shea's absence. Would you please do the
Thank you very
honors?
much for this big, long list.
You can move them in block.
Okay, so upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the fiscal and planning committee presents the following resolutions for the board's consideration. So, F6 was, approved last week. F7 was also approved last week. Ms. Quinn, if you can help me, I think we're gonna have a walk-on.
Yes. There is a walk-on. Number will be F62. This is approval of special legal counsel, Arleo and Donahue. Shall I read the resolution into the record for the public? Approve a contract with Timothy Donahue Esquire of the law firm of Arleo and Donahue LLC as special litigation counsel for the matter of
JM.
Oh, okay. Moser versus Union Township Board of Education. Docket number UNNL 370-23 at an hourly rate of $175 on an as-needed basis effective April 25th, 2023 through December 31st, 2023, not to cumulatively needed basis effect not to exceed $50,000. This contract was awarded in a non-fair and open manner.
Thank you. Going back to the resolutions, I see resolutions F52 through F58 are a concern for the proposed tentative budget for the 23-24 school year. F-56 was removed prior to the work session for county, for the county. And that's it. So I ask that we move these as a group since there's 62 resolutions.
So that would be F1 through F62,
Right.
excluding the items that were voted on during the work session.
And adding,
Yeah, F62, yep. Is there a second? Discussion? May I have a roll call?
Mrs. Brins Watson?
Yes.
Ms. Carbonell? Mrs. Manisi?
yes.
Mrs. Regis Darby? Ms. Santana?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes. Okay, grievance negotiations. Upon the recommendation of the superintendents of schools, the Grievance and Negotiations Committee presents the following resolution for the board's consideration. G1, to approve to grant the relief requested in grievance number 22-23-2. Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
So may I just ask,
Yes.
this was what was discussed last week in
Yes.
executive session?
Yes.
I don't know if I can ask, is it, not going in?
It is going in.
It is going in,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
okay. Just wanted to be,
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
oh, wait,
There's another question. Go ahead.
sorry.
No, I think I got it.
You good? Are you sure?
Well, so there was the discussion we had, and there was the.
We can't really have this conversation, so
No,
if we
I
need to
realize-
pull it, we
I
can do
realize,
that.
but that's why
Yeah.
I'm sort of, like, I can't really.
If there's a level of discomfort with the board, we can table this item until the next board meeting. I don't want anyone to vote and be uncomfortable here. So if there's a level of discomfort, let me know, and we'll just hold it.
I'm just a little confused about what I'm voting on today. I know what I said last time,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm wondering if that should be the same thing here, because.
Is there any clarity you can provide that's not going to violate any rights here? If no, then we'll table it.
No,
No. Okay, so I'm going to put a resolution on the floor, the latest on the table until the next meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Yeah.
This is to table it.
To table it.
Yes.
Mrs. Brins Watson?
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Carbonell? Yes. Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mrs. Regis Darby? Yes. Ms. Santana?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes. Okay, operations.
Upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the operations committee presents the following resolutions for the board's consideration: 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, no, I'm sorry, 07, 08, 09, 010, 011, 012, and 013.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? May I have a roll call?
Mrs. Brins Watson?
Yes.
Ms. Carbonell? Yes. Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mrs. Regis Darby? Yes. Ms. Santana?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Heeden? Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes. Next, we will have personnel. Ms. Scott Hayden.
Upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the personnel committee presents the following resolution for the board's consideration. P1A, we want to administratively table P1B, P1C, P2, P3, all the way through P7.
Is there a second?
Second?
Discussion? Yes. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Brins Watson? Yes. Ms. Carbonell? Yes. Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mrs. Regis Darby?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Santana? Yes. Mrs. Scott Hayden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes. Next, we will have residency. Mrs. Manisi?
Upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the residency committee presents the following resolutions for the board's consideration: R1 and R2.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Mrs. Brins Watson?
Yes.
Ms. Carbonell? Yes. Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mrs. Regis Darby? Yes. Ms. Santana?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Hayden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes. May I have a motion to approve the bills list?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Brins Watson?
Yes.
Ms. Carbonell? Yes. Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Mrs. Regis Darby? Yes. Ms. Santana?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott Hayden?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Ms. McKenzie?
Yes. Is there any unfinished business? Mrs. Regis Darby.
So I think at our last board meeting, I asked Dr. Taylor to please update the signs at especially at Polo, because the sign states no dogs are allowed, and even if, I know you sent me some updated signs, but usually from today's interaction, the sign still says no dogs allowed, and clearly this is a violation of the American Disabilities Act. So I'm asking the board, and I'm asking the please remove those signs immediately, because we have parents today who actually had a big problem not being able to move forward with their service dog. So please, I'm asking you to remove those signs and please not violate anyone's rights by placing these signs up.
The signs are in, so we'll first take them down in case we're backlogged and can't put the new ones up in time. We'll do that starting tomorrow. Ms. Kuhn, I'll email Mr. White.
Any other unfinished business? Mrs. Williams?
I just want to say, my husband and I have been together for 27 years, going on 28, and we still like each other. And one of the reasons that we do still like each other is because we have not missed a date night in 27 and a half years. So I was excited to do something different for date night. We got an email. We got an invitation to pasta night at Battle Hill. And it was absolutely wonderful. It was funny because my son did go to Burnett, and Mrs. Drayton was serving us dinner, and she came and took our orders, and then there was dessert. So I really want to encourage people to come out to these events because they didn't reach capacity. And it was a nice event. I got to speak with people that I had never spoken with before. It was really a nice night. And I'm going to encourage you to talk to 5 people about an event, and then let those 5 people talk to 5 more people, and let those people come to 5 more people. And by the time you finish, even if 10% of those people come out for any of our events, you got a full house, you got full capacity. So I really do want to encourage everyone to come out to every single event because it's a good time, and the kids deserve it. So that's it.
Okay. New business? Mrs. Manisi.
Okay, thank you. So this is just a few of the things that are going to be coming up, and I was going to mention pasta night, but you took my wind out of my sail. But it was a great night. We had a delicious dinner, and it was nice to visit the building. My children went there for pre-K, and it was very nice, so thank you. Also, May 1st, Dr. Taylor, I'm sure you're aware, the seniors and the high school students will be working together on computers at the senior center, right?
Yep.
From May 1st, from 9 to 11, I believe. So they call that the intergenerational computer class. Hannah Caldwell versus Franklin on Thursday night, volleyball teachers, that's from 6 to 8. It's a $5 donation. April 29th is the marketplace at Hannah Caldwell. I believe it's either 10 to 4 or 9 to 4. So these are some events that would be nice if many members of our community could come out and support.
Thank you. Ms. Santana?
I wanted to report out on Kwame. I got to attend the Kwame PTA meeting virtually, and one of the asks from my fellow board member, Yocasta, which was there also, was for me to mention Shrek. And I left my notes out as far as the exact dates, but I'm sure Ms. Board Member Brent Watson can definitely help me out here as far as dates and times. But I just want to say that whenever I go to the PTA meetings, I'm always multitasking.
May 4th.
May 4th, thank you. Doing a lot of things. But I just love that everybody comes together. They, like, idea after idea of, we're doing a 6th and 7th grade a skate night, different things for the 8th graders, and just a great sense of community. However, you know, whatever side of the fence you sit on different things, coming together for the kids always makes me feel good. And I just wanted to put that out there for Kwame. And Shrek, what is it, May 4th?
May 4th.
May 4th.
4th, 5th, 6th.
That's when it starts. That's when I'm going.
Good. And I should just say that one of the reasons, I mean, all of our shows that our schools put together, the kids, I mean, you just have to remember that this is a very collaborative effort. We're talking about, we talk about the kids and how wonderful they are and how talented they are, but the number of hours that the teachers and administrators put into this and that the parents put into this, the volunteer work that goes into it, it's simply a community effort. So I think, you know, it probably was a little weird for some people in the meeting to hear me say, oh, can you remind her to talk about this? But I tried to keep my hands separate. I was like, I'm not touching that. She needs to talk about it.
Yes.
So thank you for bringing it up. I appreciate it.
Any other new business? Ms. Brent Watson?
So I do have a couple of things. I wanted to just add to the past night at Battle Hill. It wasn't just a nice event. It was a nice event. It was a great time. I went with my own date, my 13-year-old date, and we had a very nice time. But this was also a fundraiser for a scholarship. And I hope I don't get their names wrong, but Crystal Scretchen and Jason Lopez, one who was a former student of the school and a parent, correct? Thank you. I appreciate but again, it's the kind of thing that, we were hearing about what is happening that is good in our schools. This is the spirit of what is good in our schools. People coming together and acknowledging those who have made major contributions to all of the work that we're doing here. I do have a couple of other things. This may seem like maybe not such new news, but the STEAM fair that was put together, and the leadership of, Dr. Perez, Dr. Cohen, Mr. Eichert, and I hope, he's probably gonna hate me for this, but when I watch Mr. Eichert work with the kids, he looks like a kid himself, and he's all excited with the children. But it was such a wonderful event watching the parents just stand back and let the kids articulate their work and present it in such an amazing way that you just couldn't help but to be interested in what they were doing. And there were conversations, I know Dr. Burris was having a conversation with some parents about, should we send our kid to NASA camp? I mean, come on. This is the level of stuff that we're talking about, the drones, the 3D printers, and everything that was going on there. So I just wanted to thank everybody that was involved in that event for their efforts, because our kids will always rise to the occasion. They're gonna take it, and I remember this particular child who had everything to say about the planets, and I was just standing there and thinking, I can listen to this for forever. Watching him do this. And another thing about Battle Hill, because I have to, have my notes in front of me, because otherwise I will forget it. They're involved in this very interesting thing, which is they're starting a partnership with New Jersey Positive Behavior Support in Schools. And they're part of a cohort of about 20 schools.
And I just wanted to thank Principal Drayton for sharing that information with us. They had to apply for this. I think we as a community need to know that our schools are doing these kinds of things. And it's all about supporting the children and the work that they're doing. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business?
I just want
Go ahead.
So I just want to say to my colleague over there, Ms. Brent Watson, thanks for rubbing it in my face about the STEAM fair because I wasn't able to attend it. However, I do want to thank the administration for moving forward with that initiative. When I first came on the board, I had the opportunity to meet with the past president of the PTA at Washington School, thanks to my other Madam Vice President over there. Chassie set that up, and one of her asks was that why don't we have science fairs or STEAM fairs in our district? So I just want to say to the administration and to the educators, thank you for putting it together. I promise I'll be there next year. My new job kept me away from that, but I'm glad that my colleagues were able to be present to see our students doing amazing work. So thank you for that. I will be there.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will have comments from the public. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and state your name and address.
It should be on. Oh.
Yep.
My name is Annie Pollinger, and I am a special education teacher at Union High School. I'm
State your
speaking
address,
to
ma'am.
agenda item.
Ma'am,
Yes.
could you please state your address?
Can you restart my time?
I'm not going to hold it. State your address.
I live in on Captain's Woods Road in White House Station, New
Thank
Jersey.
you.
My name is Annie Pollinger. I am speaking to agenda item P3, which contains the acceptance of my letter of resignation. My letter was dated March 16th, 2023, and I would like to share the letter with you. Dr. Taylor, Mr. Benequista, Ms. Conti, Mr. Vitino, and Ms. Bossard. I didn't want to leave Union. I tried to stay. I applied for an LDTC position in district that was posted in January. I interviewed via Google Meet with Ms. Conti and Mr. Seigling, and I followed up with a phone call 3.5 weeks later, only to find out that I did not get the job. I asked if we could discuss the possibility of starting as an LDTC in September after I complete my program and have my certificate, but I was told that was not an option. Since that time, I applied for an LDTC job elsewhere, received a phone call for an in-person interview, and another phone call to schedule a second in-person interview. After that, I was invited to meet with the superintendent a mere 2 weeks after I applied for the position. 4 days after my meeting with the superintendent, I received a follow-up phone call from Mr. Seigling and Ms. Conti, who wanted to update me on the situation in Union. They let me know that the position is still open, but that I am not being considered for it since I won't have my certification until after I complete my LDTC program in May. The stark differences between the process as an internal applicant in the district, to which I have devoted the last 17 years of my life, and the process as an external applicant in a district I barely know are remarkable. Please consider this letter as my 60 days notice, as required by NJSA 18A 28-8. My last day working for the Township of Union Public Schools will be Monday, May 15th, 2023. I would welcome the opportunity to discuss the Township of Union Public Schools job application interview process and my experience working for the district in an exit interview prior to my departure. Respectfully, Anne Marie Pollinger, MSED, Special Education Teacher, Union High School. I would like to thank Mr. Benequista for scheduling an exit interview and taking the time to meet with me and genuinely listen to my feedback. To Jamie Barca, who worked as my cooperating LDTC during my internship, and to the Township of Union Board of Education for reimbursing half of the tuition I paid for the 9 classes I needed to take in order to earn my LDTC certificate. When I was board approved in my new district, one of the board members mentioned me by name and said that an LDTC was very difficult to find and that I was a very good hire. I felt that a district I barely knew valued me more than the district I have worked in for the last 17 years. That said, I wish this district luck in finding an LDTC, since the job was reposted on March 27th. Additionally, I am the 3rd special education teacher at Union High School with over 16 years experience in this district who has left since September. I wish you luck in finding a replacement for me as well. I will greatly miss my coworkers and my students. But to quote Semisonic, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ann Margaret Shannon, 2591 Spruce Street, Union, and the Union Township Education Association. I've known Annie Pollinger for many, many years, worked closely with her in the math department. I'm extremely sad to see her go. I just want to add that there have been many, many other cases where current employees have been just dismissed. There's currently, I'm not going to say any names or any positions, but I think people know about a current Union High School person who wants to go from here to there and has had a very hard time. There's a union member who is, bridging the gap to another administration that has having a very hard time. I grew up here. I went through the school system. I love this town. I feel very lucky to have come back to be a part of this district. I was in banking first and, had the light bulb go off. Everybody in my family were teachers. I fought it forever, but I finally succumbed. And I have just seen so many of my good friends hurt by the disrespect that this district shows. And I just really wish everyone would take a hard look at what's going on and really appreciate the people that have dedicated their lives for 10 plus years and sometimes 20 plus years and maybe 30 plus years. And I just really wish that we could go in another direction and respect people that love this town as I do.
Thank you. Please. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, it's good to be here. Susan Lipstein, 2569 Jackson Avenue, Union, New Jersey. I came for many, many years to every board meeting, but COVID kept me away, and I guess things have quieted down a little bit. But today, I'm representing the Township of Union Education Foundation. 2 weeks ago, the Board of Trustees of the Township of Union Education Foundation met to discuss the awarding of grants to teachers in our district. Then I got to do the best part of my being a trustee on the Education Foundation. I got to notify the teachers who were receiving funding for their ideas. The excitement of the teachers when I spoke to them and told them they were receiving funds from us was so gratifying to hear. One teacher said to me, "You couldn't have given me better news than if I had heard that we had a snow day." So they were very happy. They were happy to find out that they were getting materials to help them in their professional lives, and that will help the students that they care about in their schools. We've then announced the grant recipients on social media. They're on various Facebooks, including the Foundation's own Facebook page and Tap Into Union, wherever we could get it out. And I sent a description. Every Board of Ed member should have received a description of what the grants are, and they should be very proud of teachers in this town who are taking the time to apply for these grants, which help them to be better teachers. Now, the hardest part of my being a trustee is to raise the money to be able to fund the grants. The all-volunteer foundation trustees work hard all year so we can make those phone calls of congratulations. So right now, we are selling raffle tickets for a Super 50-50 raffle. This year, the cost is $20, and a couple of people have said to me, "That's a lot." Well, you'll have a chance to win a nice amount if you win. And your $20 is going to help students in Union and to get some of the, programs that, such as what we funded, that we'll be funding for next year. So it's a win-win in a lot of ways. Information about that is on our Facebook page. Teachers can purchase tickets. There's at almost every school there's someone selling them. And Miriam Patrico right in the back has some tickets to sell tonight. So just a little plug. And now we are also finally going to be able to meet in person to honor the teachers who have received grants. After not being able to meet in person at a reception since 2019, I'm happy to announce we'll be having our spring reception this year on May 18th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Knights of Columbus on Jeanette Avenue in Union. And we're hoping to honor all the teachers who have received grants since 2020. The donation to attend is only $35. You'll get appetizers, dinner, and desserts. Lots of grants. Is my 3 minutes up?
Yes.
Okay, you can see what the grants are in the list that I gave you. And Ms. Williams, if 5 people tell 5 people to tell 5 people, we're going to have a full house. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank
Anyone else wishing to make a public comment, please step up.
Louisa Bias, 591 Duquesne Terrace. I wanted to start on a positive note today. I hear that people are getting uncomfortable with consequences and follow-up, so you guys are listening to me where I felt, well, maybe you weren't, but I'm thanking you guys for listening to me. Thank you. So this is the beginning of a process, and we do have to make people uncomfortable to be able to make some change. So this is the momentum we're going. So I know we're only 9 weeks away from the end, so we don't want to end that momentum. We're going to hit the ground running for September, so we can make changes. Also, speaking of changes, I know that Ms. Bossert is an interim, and I know that that decision is being made to make her or look for someone else. I believe, and I'm sure other people believe, that the changes from last year to this year are huge. So we can't then again get someone else new from it to get to know to union and so I think that we need to figure out how to keep moving in the right direction. The administration we have now is making changes with the support of you guys, and we want to just keep going. So I'm happy about that, but it doesn't mean that we have a lot of work to be done. As Dr. Pugh said, we do have a lot of work to be done, and we're going to continue to hold you accountable for the changes, for the positive changes, and everything else that needs to be done. Speaking of end of the year, we need to talk about the whole re-registration for the high school. I think that's important. Also in the middle school, I need that, for that planification and put that into work. And just what my shirt says, diversity is a fact. Inclusion is an act. We need to act. We need to be the change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jill Hall, 509 Whitewood Road. In looking at the letters and the communications tonight, we have a lot of people that are retiring. I really wanted to take the chance to wish them well. But I especially wanted to bring to the attention that Mr. Eberens will be leaving us from the high school. He's our woodworking teacher. He's a classmate of mine from Union High School. 74, he was 74, I'm 75, he's a year older, but I'm not going anywhere. My concern is, first of all, that we're losing a masterful teacher. He has a way with students that is really remarkable to watch. But the second part of that is filling a position in industrial arts and finding a woodworking teacher is going to be quite a task for this board, and I don't have an answer for that. I just know that it's something that it's going to be integral along with a French teacher, and I know that some of the other challenges that the board has, but that would really be a gap. That would be very difficult. We need more hands-on experiences, and some of our kids, they come to school for that. That's their why, and we've got to figure out a way to do that. So I don't know. Signing bonuses figured out, but we've got to get some people into those positions. And I really want to wish Mr. Eberens well. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Good evening, everybody. Vania Requera, 779 Inwood Road. It's the first time I'm in this room, and public speaking is a little uncomfortable for me, but I wanted to address the dire needs of Burnett Middle School building. It really is nothing that any one of us in this room for years and years and years prior to me right now and possibly in the future, we all talk about the same thing. We need help in that building. In this day and age, it's unacceptable to have the amount of issues with gnats and mosquitoes and mice and leaks, and the building is falling apart, and our children need better. There's 1,000 students in there. There's, your colleagues, your staff, they deserve better. And if it's infuriating to me, it's frustrating to me that, I talk to anyone who will listen to me about Burnett. I love Burnett. I'm a fan. I'm there all the time. My daughter's doing well in 7th grade. So there's a lot of positives. But what I can't not accept is that we cannot control that building. It's 100 years old. We know we're not expecting, the parents of this community are not expecting you to tear down the building and build a new one. We're expecting a facelift. We're expecting it to be inviting. We're expecting it to be safe. We're expecting it to be clean. I shouldn't have my daughter coming home, showing me things, talking about certain things that she sees in the building, and comparing her to other, I'm going to say it, our school across town, the other middle school that's a little bit more inviting. There should be a need for a plan, a need for action, right? The community deserves that. We've been talking about this for 20 years. I didn't grow up here, but I already know Burnett had a stigma. And Burnett is a wonderful school. We are just doing a disservice for not paying attention to what people before me and right now, parents who have given up and they say, I'm not sending my kid there. So they move, or they want to send their child to another middle school in town, and there shouldn't be a need for that. It should be, we live in Union, for goodness sake. There's houses selling for $800,000. There should be no need for parents in this community to say, I don't want my child to go to Burnett Middle School, especially because of the condition of the building. Anything else, I'm not here to talk about because, again, that's not my experience. My child is having a good experience, but I can't believe that we're still talking about the condition of that building and that nothing's being done about it. So I hope we have a plan and we follow through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Melissa Diaz, 2771 Audrey Terrace. I'm here about Battle Hill Special Education, as always. We have way too many kids in the class. Again, no classroom assistants. My daughter's in a class of 16, 1st and 2nd grade mixed, 1 teacher, no assistant. So she's teaching 4 different math levels. When she's teaching a few of the kids, who's teaching the other kids? There's no assistant. She's got 2 paras in the classroom for the kids, but it's 60 kids. It's almost at gen ed population. It's not fair to the teachers. They don't have assistants. They don't have proper help. The ERI class, I love the teacher. She's phenomenal. But kindergarten to 4th grade mixed in a class like that? Would you want your kindergartner in with a 4th grader in an ERI class? Maybe these parents don't know better. And I have a friend that says, speak up for all the parents, and that's what I do. Some of them don't know better. But kindergarten to 4th grade, why can it not be kindergarten to 2nd and 3rd to 5th? I don't know if Jefferson has one. Wipe it out. Make 2 classes. Battle Hill. But it's not fair what goes on in that classroom. And she doesn't have proper help. These BTs, some of them are good. Some of them are on their phone all day, doing nothing. And she's up there holding on to the kid who's trying to run around, doing her assignments. It's not fair. And these BTs, I will say there are a handful that are phenomenal, but there's too many that are sitting on a phone for, what do you pay the company, $70 an hour for someone to sit on their phone all day? And I know complaints have gone out, but nothing gets done. These teachers are tired. I'm tired. I feel bad for them. I don't know what to do for them. I don't know what to do for my own child who has a phenomenal teacher who is making her thrive. My kid is now sounding out words. She's Lisa Erickson. It's phenomenal. Great. We went from Jen Chamberlain, who taught her, to Lisa Erickson, who is helping her sound out words. But she is one teacher with 16 kids. What are we doing to these teachers? You're burning them out. And why does our school, who have so many special needs, not have a BCBA housed in that school? Because we have kids having meltdowns for an hour at a time. And then we have to get our case managers to come downstairs. They have to help out. A principal has to come and help out. Why is there not a BCBA in that school all day long, sitting in the classrooms, watching the BTs, see if they're doing their job, or helping out when the kids are having meltdowns? Why is it the principal's job to go and do this? Just to run a building. How do you run a building when you have to go put out fires for the kids that need all this extra help? Okay, my time's up, but thank you.
Anyone else? May I have a motion to adjourn? Second? Roll call? Mrs. Manisi?
Yes.
Ms. Chastity?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, meeting adjourned. Have a good night.
My husband